From the Classic 107 studios in downtown Winnipeg, 107 Live for Birchwood Jaguar, the art of performance.
On Winnipeg's Classic 107, you just heard the breathtaking and elegant playing of Emanuele Buono, who, before he performs as part of the Winnipeg Classical Guitar Society's International Artists Concert Series, has been gracious enough to perform here in the Classic 107 studio. Good afternoon, Emanuele.
Oh, hi.
Well, what a pleasure it is to have you here in the station.
It's my pleasure.
I have to admit, before you came in, I spent a good deal of time watching your YouTube videos.
Oh, really?
And I could say that seeing you perform in person is jaw-dropping. Your fingers are flying.
But thank you.
Well, I just want to ask, to begin, have you been to Winnipeg before?
Oh, no, it's my first time here. And of course, I'm extremely happy and excited about it. And I just want to say thanks to you for inviting me, and I want to say hello to all the listeners of Radio 107, and I would like also to say thanks to the Classical Guitar Society of Winnipeg. And what can I say? I'm very much looking forward to open this concert series tomorrow.
Well, I can say that we thank you as well for coming here to Winnipeg. You have such a busy performing series. You perform all around the world. I was just again looking at your website, and you've had recent stops in Serbia, and of course your native Italy, and stops that come in Russia and in Ukraine. What motivates you as a performer to maintain such an active schedule?
Well, actually, it's an hard job. It's even because I'm not only a performer, but I also a teacher.
Right.
And I have also a family, so it's a kind of crazy job. But it's I always wanted to do it. Just when I was a kid, it was my dream to come to the stage and share my music to the audience and share my emotion to them. So
I think emotion is a really good way to put it. There's so much passion in your playing, and I could feel it in the studio right there. I'm sure audiences in Winnipeg will feel it tomorrow. You're an award-winning guitarist. I'm not going to read through all of your accomplishments, but I'll assure listeners that there are many. But you said since you were a kid, you've wanted to be a performer and to play.
Yeah.
Who got you to pick up the guitar? What got you started?
Well, I was listening always these great recordings of the great masters like David Russell, Barrueco, Segovia, and Julian Brin. Mm-hmm. And I totally fell in love with the instrument. Of course, my father was a guitar fan. He was not a professional, but he just put in my hands the instrument just for fun. But after a while, he saw that I was totally fell in love with the instrument, so we started to take it seriously. And I started to go in the conservatory in Milano, where I spent 10 years of my life practicing guitar and listening good music, because I had the opportunity to come in this big hall, which is the Verdi Hall,
right? And
listening to the greatest conductors, pianists, and violinists, and it was not so only guitar, but it was also getting inspiration and listening a lot of music and that's I think is very important to be a musician.
It most certainly is. So we can thank your father for encouraging you to get you started with the guitar. I know for me, many of us are encouraged by our parents to pick up an instrument, and often it's the piano, right? So I'm glad it was the guitar because A, I love listening to the guitar, but B, it's a little bit more portable than the piano. So very
Yes,
glad to have you here. You mentioned people listening to people like Barrueco, and I mean, you've performed for, or at least have played with or studied with others like Paulo Pegoraro or Pablo Marquez. They've offered you high praise. What would you advise young guitarists for the future, for guitarists practicing today?
Well, first of all, to be aware that they are making the greatest job in the world, and my goal is every time when I go to the stage, I try to share the joy of playing, and to think only about the music and not to be only focused on the technical construction of the composition. I know it's a very hard job. It's not easy, but because you have to be very concentrated on a lot of elements, like how to interpret correctly the phrases, the dynamics, colors, and a lot of this stuff. So, but I don't know. There are so many great young players today. I really don't know what you have to tell them. Just that, just enjoy your playing.
I think that's the best advice you can offer. And speaking of those young players, I mean, you're performing tomorrow. And before we get to the concert, I understand you're also doing some outreach here in Winnipeg. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was for me. It was a new experience. I never did that before. It was funny because I was actually surprised about their concentration, because I was playing 50 minutes of very not easy music to listen, and they were from 6 to 9 years old, but they were they enjoyed a lot, and for me this is the most important thing.
So for listeners, you were performing at Sargent Park School earlier today for some young ones, and I'm sure they would have been engaged in your playing. I mean, you speak of understanding the music, but I can assure you, again, going back to your performance when introducing this interview, I too was thoroughly engaged. It translates so wonderfully, the intimacy of the guitar. For listeners just tuning in, I'm speaking with Emanuele Buono, who's here in Winnipeg to begin the 2017-18 International Artists Series at the Winnipeg Classical Guitar Society. So, Emanuele, what can you tell us about tomorrow's performance?
Okay, tomorrow it will be mostly baroque music in the first half. I'm going to perform an arrangement of Telemann Fantasia for violin solo. And then I'm gonna perform a Telemann Passacaglia. Telemann is a Polish composer of the 20th century who composed this piece after getting inspiration by the Bach Passacaglia. And then I'm gonna finish the first part with Silvius Lepelweid Suite number 6 in D minor. Which is original for baroque lute,
right?
And yes, I made my own arrangement of this piece. And the second half will be Italian music, so I'm very glad to bring a part of Italy
near and
here
dear
in
to your
Canada.
heart.
Yeah. It will be Paganini sonatas, originally written for guitar. And it will be Mario Castagno Tedesco,
right.
Capriccio de Goya number 18. Which is actually a chaconne, exactly like Tasman wrote a piece on a baroque dance, and then I will finish the concert with Rossignana number 1 of Giuliani. Giuliani, of course, is together with Fernando Sori, the greatest composer of the 19th century. And the Rossignana is a set of theme taken from the Rossini operas.
Right.
Which variation Giuliani wrote a very virtuoso variation and a great final of that piece. So
Well, I'm
I
sure.
hope you will enjoy it.
I was going to say, I'm sure audiences are already looking forward to being there.
I'm very, I hope I invite everyone because audience to me is a active part of the concert. Actually, I get a lot of energy from them. Without them, the music is not the same for me.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. I mean, they really help to energize the performer. Being a performer myself, I can say that you really draw on the energy of those who are there with you, right, and participating. In terms of classical guitar repertoire, you speak of these past masters, some great names from the Baroque period or from the Romantic. But you mentioned that also you do arrangements yourself or transcriptions, essentially. Yeah. Where do you see the music in terms of classical guitar repertoire? Where do you see it going in the future?
That's a good point because, of course, the great master recorded almost all the main repertoire of classical guitar. Mm-hmm. Of course, now there are so many young, excellent players who can, give their personal interpretation of these very well-known pieces. But I like to introduce something new. I played a lot the very well-known pieces. Actually, I made a CD of my competition program.
Mm-hmm.
But now I would like to change and make something new like this arrangement transcription. I think we need to listen something new.
Oh, I think audiences are going to enjoy listening to what you offer, the new and your interpretations of these old past masters, because it's just such engaging repertoire. Again, I'm a big fan of the classical guitar, and it's just so wonderful to hear. There's something so intimate about it. Yeah. We were chatting off the air, and I mentioned that you always kind of have to lean into the guitar and just enjoy the sound of the player. So, thank you so much for coming here to the Classic 107 Studios. And before tomorrow's performance, I can truly say it's just been a pleasure chatting with you and hearing you play, kind of having a front row seat.
It was my pleasure.
Oh, well, before you leave, can I ask you to play one more?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So just as you grab your guitar, feel free to set up there. Yeah. What are we going to be hearing to close out?
Well, I'm going to play the second movement of the Fantasia No. 9 by Telemann.
Wonderful. Emanuele Buono is in Winnipeg to perform in the season-opening Winnipeg Classical Guitar Society concert. That's tomorrow, the 16th, beginning at 8 p.m. He'll be performing in the Precious Blood Church, 200 Kenny Street. Tickets are $20, and for more information, you can head to classic107.com or winnipegclassicalguitarsociety.com. Thanks again, Emanuele.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
107 Live is Classic 107's intimate concert series, brought to you by Birchwood Jaguar, the art of performance.